The University of Arkansas senior had just flown in from Mexico, stepped onto a PGA Tour course for the first time as a competitor, and shot a 2 under 70 that had the veterans nodding in approval. 4 birdies, a chip-in on 16, a 20-foot par save that settled the nerves. By any measure, it was a debut to be proud of. But when the reporter asked John Daly II what he planned to work on before Friday's second round, the 22-year-old didn't talk about swing mechanics or putting drills. He didn't mention the range or the short game area. He leaned into the microphone, flashed a grin, and delivered an answer so perfectly, so gloriously Daly, that the golf world lost its collective mind. I would say I'd go hit balls, but I'm a little tired, so I'm just probably going to go to the beach and probably do absolutely nothing for the rest of the day. Cue the cigarettes, cue the Diet Cokes. The son of golf's most lovable hellraiser had officially arrived. John Daly II grew up watching his father do things his own way. The elder Daly won 2 major championships, captured the hearts of millions, and built a legend on a foundation of 300-yard drives, chain smoking, and an almost supernatural ability to not care what anyone thought about any of it. In 1995, when asked about his pre-round preparation before winning the Open Championship, Daly Sr. delivered an answer that became part of golf lore. "I'm going to hit balls for maybe 20 minutes, probably a little bit, smoke 4 or 5 cigarettes, drink 3 Diet Cokes, and go to the first tee. Some days I won't even go to the range." That attitude, equal parts irreverent and authentic, made him one of the most beloved figures in the sport's history. So when John Daly II stepped onto the first tee at Grand Reserve Golf Club in Rio Grande, Puerto Rico for his PGA Tour debut, the expectations weren't about scorecards or leaderboards. They were about whether the kid had inherited something more important than his father's swing, his soul. The answer came quickly. Daly II birdied the par 4 first hole, settling any nerves that might have been lurking. On the second, he faced a 20-footer for par after an up-and-down start. He drained it. "Solid up and down on 2, made about a 20-footer for par, which is nice, settled me in," he said afterward. From there, he played steady golf. 8 straight pars on the front 9, a chip-in birdie on 16, just 2 bogeys all day. When the dust settled, the 22-year-old Arkansas senior had posted a 2 under 70, good for a tie for 21st and second among all amateurs in the field. "It was good," Daly II said. His assessment is understated as his father's would have been. "Feel like I left a few out there, but I made it up with just a couple good saves and a nice chip-in on 16. Solid, steady, professional." And then came the question that changed everything. The question was routine, innocent, the kind of thing reporters ask 100 times a week without thinking. "What are you going to work on before tomorrow's round?" Daly II could have given the standard answer: go to the range, work on a few things, get some rest. Instead, he gave the answer that will follow him for the rest of his career. "I would say I'd go hit balls, but I'm a little tired, so I'm just probably going to go to the beach and probably do absolutely nothing for the rest of the day." The reporter blinked. The other media members in the room exchanged glances, and then, almost in unison, they laughed. Because it was perfect. It was honest. It was gloriously, unapologetically Daly. The clip spread faster than anyone could track. Within hours, it had been viewed millions of times. Golf fans who'd never heard of John Daly II suddenly knew exactly who he was, and more importantly, they knew that the apple hadn't fallen far from the tree. "I'm a little tired." After flying in from Mexico, after walking 18 holes in the Puerto Rican heat, after posting a 2 under 70 in his PGA Tour debut, the kid was tired. And instead of pretending otherwise, instead of giving the canned response that every other player memorizes in junior golf, he told the truth. He was going to the beach. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Fellow players posted laughing emojis. Media outlets ran the quote as a standalone story. Fans created memes. The phrase, "probably do absolutely nothing," became an instant catchphrase. John Daly Sr., watching from wherever John Daly Sr. watches things, reportedly smiled and said nothing. He didn't need to. His son had just proven that the legacy wasn't just about golf swings and major championships, it was about something far more important: authenticity. Lost in the hilarity of the beach quote was something genuinely impressive. John Daly II had just played his first competitive PGA Tour round, and he'd played it well. 4 birdies, a chip-in on 16, a 20-foot par save that kept the round from unraveling, just 2 bogeys in 18 holes on a course he'd barely seen. The 2 under 70 left him tied for 21st, second among amateurs, and comfortably inside the cut line. For a 22-year-old making his debut, that's a statement. He's got the talent, one veteran observer noted. Everyone knows that. But talent doesn't always translate to performance when the lights are brightest. What he showed today was composure. That's harder to teach. The composure was evident from the first tee. Daly II birdied the opening hole, settling any nerves before they could take hold. On the second, when a wayward shot left him facing a 20-foot par putt, he didn't panic. He drained it. Solid up and down on 2, made about a 20-footer for par, which is nice, settled me in. From there, he played mistake-free golf, 8 straight pars on the front 9, a chip-in birdie on 16, a bogey-free stretch that showed patience and maturity beyond his years. Feel like I left a few out there, but I made it up with just a couple good saves and nice chip-in on 16, he said. The assessment of a player who knows his game well enough to be honest about it. The Arkansas senior has been building toward this moment for years, a standout college career, multiple tournament wins, and a steady progression that has scouts taking notice. But college golf and PGA Tour golf are different animals. The crowds are bigger, the pressure is higher, the stakes are real. Daly II handled it like he'd been there before. He's got a bright future, one PGA Tour pro said. The name opens doors, but it also creates expectations. He's smart enough to know that. He's grounded enough to handle it. That's a rare combination. The beach quote was funny. It was charming. It was perfectly Daly. But underneath the humor was a young man who'd just proven he belongs. John Daly Sr. changed golf without ever trying to. He didn't revolutionize the swing. He didn't write books on mental toughness. He didn't lecture younger players about discipline or dedication. He just showed up, hit the ball farther than anyone had ever seen, smoked cigarettes between shots, and let the world love him for being exactly who he was. In 1991, he was the 9th alternate for the PGA Championship. He drove through the night to get to Crooked Stick, slept in his car, and then won the tournament in a performance that still feels like a fairy tale. 2 years later, he won the Open Championship at St. Andrews, the home of golf, cementing a legacy that had nothing to do with technique and everything to do with personality. The drinking, the gambling, the multiple marriages, the weight fluctuations, the cigarettes, the Diet Cokes, all of it became part of the legend. John Daly wasn't just a golfer, he was a force of nature, a reminder that sports didn't have to be sanitized and corporate to be compelling. John Daly II grew up in that orbit. He watched his father deal with fame, with criticism, with the endless scrutiny that comes from being one of the most recognizable athletes on the planet. He learned that the name Daly carries weight, but it also carries baggage. People expect you to be one thing. The challenge is figuring out who you actually are. "I'm not my dad," Daly II has said repeatedly. "I'm me. I have my own game, my own personality, my own way of doing things." But the beach quote suggests he's more like his father than he might admit. Not in the specifics. He's not chain-smoking between shots or drinking Diet Cokes on the tee box, but in the fundamental refusal to be anyone other than himself, in the willingness to tell a reporter, "I'm going to the beach," instead of reciting the script. He's carrying forward something more important than a swing. He's carrying forward the Daly spirit. John Daly Sr., now 59, watches his son's career with a mixture of pride and wonder. He knows what the name means, he knows the expectations, and he knows that his son is handling it better than he ever could have. "He's smarter than me," John Daly Sr. has said.
He's got his head on straight. He's going to be fine. The legacy isn't about trophies. It's about authenticity. And on that front, the son is already a champion.
John Daly II has the rest of the Puerto Rico Open to play. He's comfortably inside the cut line after that impressive 2 under 70 with 2 more rounds to prove that Thursday wasn't a fluke. The beach can wait. For now, there's golf to be played. But regardless of what happens over the weekend, the 22-year-old has already accomplished something significant. He's introduced himself to the golf world on his own terms. Not as John Daly's son, not as a curiosity or a novelty, as a player with game, a personality with charm, and a young man who understands that authenticity is its own kind of currency. The beach quote will follow him forever. Every time he steps onto a course, someone will bring it up. Every interview, every press conference, every awkward moment, there will be a reference to that Thursday in Puerto Rico when a kid told the truth and the world fell in love with him for it. That's not a burden, that's a gift. John Daly Sr. built a career on being exactly who he was. Consequences be damned. His son is building something different, a career that honors that legacy without being trapped by it. He's got the talent to compete, the head to handle the pressure, and the personality to make people smile. In a sport that often takes itself too seriously, that combination is priceless. The Puerto Rico Open will end, a champion will be crowned, the tour will move on to the next stop, the next story, the next drama. But John Daly II will keep playing, keep improving, keep being exactly who he is. And somewhere, probably on a beach, his father will be watching with a cigarette in one hand and a Diet Coke in the other, smiling at the knowledge that the name Daly is in good hands. I'm just probably going to go to the beach and probably do absolutely nothing for the rest of the day. It was the quote of the year, and it was only March. For more coverage of the biggest stories in golf, subscribe and hit the notification bell.